Hey there, boys and ghouls. Make sure to rate and review this episode on iTunes. It will make the master happy. Yes, yes.
Hey, boys and ghouls, we're back. It's Thursday. It's time for another Hollow Weekly. And this year, we have a list.
We do.
Because if you like listicles, this episode's for you. So we are not counting down, not in any particular order, best years in horror and a few terrible years in horror. The ebb and flow of horror films.
So we're not. This episode's not ambitious at all. We just decided to review all horror movies ever.
Yep, we went through.
We might retire after this episode. Actually,
we have 100 televisions in front of us, trying to knock out as much as we can. It's not good.
well, we asked the Hello Weekly fans on Facebook what they thought the single best quality, most fun year of horror was. And we got some really cool answers. So then it gave us the idea, let's tackle it ourselves. And then we decided to throw in what were the worst years as well.
I was actually kind of surprised with my list because I immediately thought that like 2000 to 2007 was just going to be full of shit because that's how I remember it. I remember like at the time, like being in like middle school, going into high school and just like watching trailers for all these horror films and being like, oh, these movies fucking suck. Mm-hmm. Like this sucks. And like, that's how like I remember that. But my list kind of...
Yeah, my list changed like 3 times.
Yeah. I changed it once before recording and then I feel good about it now.
So I feel good about it too. But that's the thing is I discovered some movies that I totally forgot and movies that I misremembered as being in different years. Mm-hmm. Right? So
yeah,
this is going to be fun.
And and the way I picked it personally was like what horror films were like monumental or changed like the horror genre or the films for that time. So like it really had to like be groundbreaking and or so fucking good that we still talk about it today, which is why I didn't pick a lot of 50s like B movies and like that kind of shit, like because and honestly I went with years that I've seen most of the films because I could just pick a range. I could pick like 1940 whatever,
right?
You know, and just be like, yeah, haven't seen half this movie, so it fucking sucks. And I didn't want to like cop out and pick those things.
Well, I copped out. I was born in 1920, so I've seen.
You remember?
I've seen it all.
You were waiting in line around the block to see Frankenstein.
I totally. Frankenstein Phantom. I was there. The Cabinet of Dr. What? I was like, I'll check this.
So do you want to kick off the?
Yeah, but So I'm going to throw one curveball in there. I don't know what you did. We talked about this earlier, but I don't know if we decided on it. But I just went ahead and did it.
The answer is no.
Right.
So
there are a couple. There's a couple of years that are on my list, and it's because I went a little broader than just movies. Mm-hmm. Right. So I put in.
Oh yeah, we did go over that, and I looked it up, and I was like, I'm all about the films.
That's fine. That's totally fine. But I'll explain my reasons. Okay, let's do it.
Okay. You go first because you got the big Mama Jama over there.
I do. I have like tons of notes. All right, so this year the unemployment rate in America is 16.3%. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. The Empire State Building is officially opened and will remain the world's tallest building for 40 years. And William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy were born. We're in 1931.
Damn, he's that old,
right? I know.
He's the same age as my pap. No,
yeah. He
doesn't look it.
No, he's amazing, right? I thought maybe this is an error, but I double checked it and it said it was true though.
Wow.
So there's a couple reasons why I just had to go with this year. So one of the things is there's a movie that's probably had a bigger impact on me than almost any movie I've seen that isn't really technically a horror, but like I take it as horror. And it was in the block when I looked up for 31. So obviously Frankenstein, Dracula, boom, right? one thing that is, I mean, it's pretty common to say that Frankenstein and Dracula saved Universal Studios.
Yeah.
Right. But it was also in 31 when not only did they unleash like Frankenstein and Dracula on the world, but the movie M comes out same time, and Spanish Dracula, which shouldn't be overlooked because it's an absolutely amazing movie, right? But there's just no way around the fact that, I mean, we're sitting here in 2017 talking about the Universal Monsters reboot.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is 1931. I mean, your great grandfather William Shatner was just a twinkle in someone's eye, and now here we are in 2017, all this time later, talking about rebooting these same figures. They were just like devastating impact on the horror genre, and I actually, when I was a kid, I remember seeing Dracula and Frankenstein and it having like this impact on me that it was scary. Like it was scary to a kid, but it was also, there's just a couple things that like are stamped on the horror genre, and that atmosphere behind Frankenstein and Dracula, that feel and that gothic like thing, like I just never forget it. So I mean, 1931 is my starting point.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I hate that Mummy trailer. That new one.
I know.
I saw it again in the theater. I was like, God damn it!
I know.
That scream he does when he's leaving the plane doesn't. He sounds like Charlie from It's Always Sunny.
Didn't someone edit it to do something weird to it that was hilarious?
Yeah, I guess like someone had uploaded like the files with just the sound effects, and it's like really. Ugh. All right, so 1931.
That's my kickoff year.
Great year. So the first year I'm going to go with and mine's not in any order. I think all these years have great things. The year I went with is 1979. And what I noticed is that no matter what year you picked, there's an Amityville horror film.
That's true.
Yeah, so you can pick any year and you have an Amityville horror.
Yeah.
But 79 has like, the first like good one that people enjoyed. So it has Amityville Horror, Phantasm, The Brood, Nosferatu, the Werner Herzog.
I'm glad you picked that year just for this.
Yeah. When a Stranger Calls, which I love. Salem's Lot aired. Zombie 2, which I think most people would probably recognize that poster from any other horror film because it just has that like, the zombie with like the fucking eye missing, like cheesing on the poster. But most importantly, the one that I think probably helped horror out, I don't want to say the most because Salem's Lot was in there. But Alien coming out, just like for me, like it just, I think it changed like how to do like good horror films.
Right.
And I wanted to pick 78 because of Halloween. Sure. But I love it, but like Alien is just so pretty. There's just everything about it, the design of it, the feel of it, the look of it. Like it's so good. So I went with 1979, and also it's just, I don't think I need to explain anything else. Fucking Alien. Alien's on our list.
You don't have to.
You get a little bit of everything. You got Stephen King, Ridley Scott, like, and Phantasm's like, I don't know. There's not a big reasoning for it. Just fucking Alien. Like I didn't even have to name everything else. I could have been Alien next. 79 Alien next.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing is that was, Alien was the movie where it combined so many elements into one little perfect package, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sci-fi, it's haunted house, it's creature feature, it's horror. I mean, there was an argument on Quora where it was, has there even been a great horror movie after Alien?
Yeah.
Right. And there have been, but I mean, it set such a high bar that you could actually have that discussion and not,
Yeah, and that brings me after you give your next one to 92, because I sort of have these. The way my list sort of works is like there's like the one movie.
Yep.
that's like the general of that year, and then it has like all of its like lieutenants and shit of like how great the horror films were. That's how like I thought of it in my head. I thought of it like an RPG, just like, okay, so like Alien's like a max level 30 and everything else is like a 15 to 10.
When a stranger calls Alien for orders.
So okay, so 1979.
All right, love it. Good choice. So I'm gonna go into a little more detail on this one. This year we're down to a 5.5% unemployment rate. So America's rocking it. Mm-hmm. The Cleveland Browns are the NFL champions. And the CIA is working behind the scenes to rewrite the animated film Animal Farm, because apparently the CIA was messing with films back then. Whatever. We're in 1954.
The Browns were the champion. 19 never.
Cleveland, are you listening? Nick's address is. All right, so the reason I'm going with this is so this is the creature feature year. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you 3 names: Creature from the Black Lagoon,
yep.
Them, Godzilla. Right.
Yeah.
So now the reason I find this like really, really amazing is I was looking for themes, like where did horror pivot, right? So Creature from the Black Lagoon doesn't really have any heroes or villains, mm-hmm. right? I mean, the people are people in Creature from the Black Lagoon are kind of assholes.
Yeah.
The creature's kind of just doing his thing, but I mean, he is killing people left and right, right?
He's a creature.
Right, exactly right. But they're not really like, it's not really divided into a hero villain category, right? Godzilla is the prototype of that. Now that's the franchise, right? Mm-hmm. So he starts as a villain, but he ends up being like, I don't know, like a
back and forth,
teddy bear, cuddle toy, like whatever the hell they did to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and Them is probably one of the most underrated horror movies of all time. I'm not a huge Rotten Tomatoes fan, like we talked about on the Good Bad Flicks episode, but Them is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Mm-hmm. To be a horror movie that's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes is
and the Misfits made a song about him, which starts out with the insects making that gross clicking noise.
That's totally true. But the thing that's like really, really amazing to me about this is I'm gonna isolate down on Godzilla. So this movie is I did not know this, but the director of Godzilla is basically a war hero. Mm-hmm. He was a POW, he was a foot soldier, and he was eventually a commander, right? So he actually experienced war. And people forget because Godzilla got so ridiculous later, but the original Godzilla is really, really gritty. It's really sad, right? Like even sadder than King Kong. King Kong has that sad ending, but Godzilla is just like kind of haunted all the way through with like this really sad quality that like big budget special effects movies almost never pull off, right? Mm-hmm. You'll get that quality for a movie like that. And it's almost shot documentary style, which is really like a really interesting way to take it. But one of the things that I love about this on the IMDb page for trivia for Godzilla was to show you how real it seemed to them at the time, the original audiences who were watching it. Godzilla, one of the buildings Godzilla smashes in Godzilla is the Toho Theater. Audiences saw the movie in the Toho Theater. So when Godzilla comes around and smashes the Toho Theater, the people in the audience tried to run. They literally tried to exit the building. They thought they were being attacked, right?
Oh my God.
Like this is like War of the Worlds Orson Welles style pranking, like going on doing this thing. But they were so jumpy, and rightfully so. I mean, we did drop 2 atomic bombs on them, so they had a thing going on, right? But that movie to me was, it's King Kong's a better movie, I think, but it's the ultimate example of how a quality can sneak into a horror film, and because the people who are doing it really care about doing it, they have a message inside that they're working through, and they had a life experience. I can't think of other, I'm sure there are, but I can't think of other war heroes that directed horror movies, right? So like this is just an amazing example of, and we're still talking about to this day, which is the other thing. And I have to throw in the thing that put this year over the top for me, because it wasn't the movies. The novel I Am Legend, Richard Matheson, comes out in 1954. All right, so now let's put this in perspective. If you do a list, if you Google a list of scariest horror novels, right? You're gonna get Frankenstein, 1818, Dracula, 18 whatever, late 1800s. You might get like some obscure, maybe Phantom of the Opera, like whatever. And then there's this wasteland of time, or this gap of time from like 1900 to like 1970 Exorcist, right? Where you're getting tons of short stories. H.P. Lovecraft was active, whatever, but you're not getting novels, right? And then this horror novel drops, and I Am Legend is like it's such a scary book, and it's combining like vampire, zombie, isolated human being. Like it's just like a neutron bomb of quality dropped in the middle of like whatever. So there's tons of scary novels post Exorcist, heading past Rosemary's Baby to Stephen King.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, the fact that this guy was working in this gap of time where almost, nothing like that was happening, and he just managed to pull this out of his sleeve is like, this is a great year for horror.
And there's just a lot of history behind like how that was almost made a film multiple times. And then like, the shit with like the Will Smith one, the original ending. Not in the 50s, but just a good story.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's the thing is it's also like that. It's a shame that there's not really a quality version of it. I mean, the first one was probably the best, but
the Omega Man?
No, or the Last Man on Earth or whatever it was called. But
okay, good. The Vincent Price one, which I have a year.
But the thing is, it's a credit to the book that you can't, right? I mean, a book is so good that maybe there's just no way to do a quality version of it. And actually, it's funny you bring that up because that's one of the things that I really respect about Creature from the Black Lagoon. I mean, Creature from the Black Lagoon is a universal monster, but the universal monsters are from early 30s. Think of a horror thing where 20 years later someone comes around and adds something to a club that's already an quality club, and they do it right. Yeah. And it's also never been remade, right? I mean, it has sequels.
Funny you mentioned that. I was just watching, there's a YouTuber, I can't remember his name, it's like Casper or something like that, but he does like little mini. I think I sent you one of his things, but he mentioned how like you mentioned like there hasn't been like a good adaptation of the film, but he did a series on how they deemed Watchmen a movie you couldn't make, and the whole purpose, and even Zack Snyder says like whenever I tell people like read the novel first and then go see it, he mentioned in his video essay that the movie, isn't supposed to be a carbon copy of the book. It's supposed to just lift those elements, and then hopefully it gets you to read the book. So
that's totally true.
Maybe I should read the goddamn book.
And fun story, when John Carpenter was invited to Universal to meet the president of Universal sometime after doing the thing, they invited him to browse the entire Universal catalog, and they asked John Carpenter, what movie would you want to remake? And he picked Creature. And he signed Rick Baker to do it. There's actually designs. They just never got to make the movie.
Oh, mother of God. So I think are those images posted online of what the creature designs look like? Or was
I haven't seen it.
Because there was another point in time when they were going to remake it, I believe, and then someone had, I don't know where the images come from, but it's like an updated creature like that's not from Monster Squad.
Yeah, there's tons of directors that were attached to it. Guillermo del Toro was at some point, but there was another version that was being shopped around Hollywood after Carpenter's version didn't get greenlit, and Rick Baker walked away from it because he didn't like what they were doing. They were changing the creature so much that it wasn't recognizable, so he walked away. But Carpenter and Baker came so close to actually doing it. They were literally about to be greenlit, and then Memoirs from the Invisible Man flopped, and then the studio took it as
Why, with a title like that?
Memoirs of the Bye-Bye Man.
It should have done good. So 1954. 1954.
What you got?
Okay, so next, and a lot of my honorable mentions, or two of them are in the same decade. But my best, I had to pick one. I went with a last minute change from 91. I'll talk about that in the honorable mentions. I went with 92.
Okay.
And I'm
Who's
still
the general? I'm really excited. I can't even.
well. The general is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh, okay.
Much like Alien, Oscar-nominated film, like
Yep.
fucking.
I've seen it like 10 times.
And we've mentioned it so many times.
Yep.
Listen to any other episode, and you'll hear us talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula for like 30 minutes. I'm gonna say, but the things that back this movie up, and I'll talk about this in the mentions, was Candyman. Mm-hmm. Even though it's not my favorite film, it's still
amazing.
It's still really fucking good.
And legitimately scary.
And then also, I know a lot of people hate it, but it gave this guy, some more working experience to make some great films. It was Alien 3. Mm-hmm. I didn't really mind it. But these two, and these are not in any particular order. Trust me, because it would break my heart to pick one.
Right.
But the Army of Darkness came out, which some people are like, "Is it horror?" It's fucking horror.
Yeah,
it's in
Ash is in it.
Yeah, it's a horror film.
Relax.
Bite me.
Right.
It's in there. But then the one that like made me pick this over 91 was that it had Dead Alive in it.
Mm-hmm. I saw that actually when I was looking at yours.
Yeah, and you know, Dead Alive is, for some reason, it's the film that you see on those lists of most underrated horror films.
Right.
Anyone who posts an article, 10 underrated horror films, for some reason, fucking Dead Alive is always on there. It's like, no, you've been on so many of those goddamn lists. Like, you're not underrated anymore. Like, you're appreciated.
Halloween 3.
Yeah. Well, one of the No. Halloween 3. We've mentioned that. It's we love it. Everyone loves it. Stop acting like you've never fucking seen it before.
Or it's underrated.
Or it's underrated. But I had to go with Dead Alive just because, like, I remember watching that with my friends being like, holy shit, is this film crazy? Like, the fucking priest kicking ass for the Lord, the fucking lawnmower tearing everyone up. Mm-hmm. Just a great fucking year. And, like, I think if you can have one fucking film blockbuster like Dracula, you're like, that's great. Like, that film could have lasted... me being 1 year old that year could have lasted me the whole fucking year. Right. But to have Candyman, Dead Alive, Army of Darkness, and Alien 3, it's just a solid year. I don't mean that's...
No, I'm totally with you. I ask people a lot, just out of the blue randomly, because I'm not normal. What movie scared them? And, you know, it changes generation. If you ask older people, it's usually Exorcist or Birds, you know, or something. And if you ask, you know, super younger people, you get different answers. But the one answer that always surprises me, because there's this gap and it's hard to even predict the age, is Candyman. I mean, that movie terrified so many
I remember
people.
being in elementary school at the time, and like people would talk about Candyman the same way you would have talked about the urban legend of like Bloody Mary. Mm-hmm. Like Candyman somehow made it into that world.
Totally.
I don't know how.
No, and that's the thing is, but you know what? One of the things I like about your choice for that, picking that year, is a lot of my years I feel like are a little homogenous, where the same thing's happening, like Creature Feature 54, whatever. But your year has so much variety. Mine, Dead Alive is just a frantic, crazy.
You think 92 has variety?
Bram Stoker's Dracula is so polished. Candyman is one of the darkest mainstream horror movies ever made. I mean, that movie is bleak.
Yeah, and Dead Alive, it kind of had that like indie feel
Totally
to it. And then Alien, of course, is kind of a failed blockbuster, but it still had that blockbuster fucking, and it had aliens in it, like beautiful.
And not to mention Army of Darkness, which just stretches the whole definition of what horror can do. I mean, that's got a lot of variety.
Yeah, and you get some comedy in there too, which is, I mean, you sort of get kind of both those with Dead Alive and Army of Darkness. But if you think 92 had variety, George, old boy. Well, actually, you know what's funny? My last two pick it's basically like a horror fans buffet. These last two picks.
Awesome.
Okay, so 1992.
All right. This is where I'm going to dig deepest, because this is
get as deep as you can.
This is the one
balls deep.
This is the one that I love the most. Okay, so unemployment's still 5.5%.
56.
The Japanese Socialist Party chairman is assassinated on live TV with a samurai sword. And the Flintstones debut.
1960. Am I right? 60.
1960.
I know we like flashed the numbers at each other, but I can't remember. 1962.
We're in 1960.
Oh,
We're dead on in 1960. Now, so if you go to Google and you search the phrase, the horror movie that changed the genre, that's it, just generic. Psycho is what you're going to get.
yeah.
Right. So Psycho is the thing that literally changed, like, so not only changed so much, but like, you know, I actually never even caught this. I can't believe that this went past me, but, you know, John Carpenter named Loomis after a character in Psycho. Like, it inspired him for what he was trying to do with Halloween, right? So Psycho not only has impacted like pure horror genre people, but it also was what we talked about before, was a director who doesn't only work in horror, bringing his skills to horror and showing you what you can do as an invader into the genre, right? Like,
Yeah.
Because he wasn't always working in it. Giallo is one of my favorite genres, and you know, Psycho is just like the determinant factor of Italian Giallo, right? Like Mario Bava counted the number of murders in Psycho, and in Blood and Black Lace decided he was going to double it. That's how he picked how many people were going to die in the movie, right? So, I mean, this Psycho is you know, there's just no way around like what that movie's going to do for the genre, right? But I found a article that was kind of encapsulated like what they were talking about how the effect that Psycho had on the genre, because before it says, you know, it's almost always supernatural creatures like Godzilla or the Fly or Dracula, Frankenstein, not really supernatural, but a monster, right? And then Psycho is just like Norman Bates sitting there on top of his black secret that only he knows. And it's not even the mom. The mom's dead, right? I mean, it's literally just this guy and his anger and his problem, right? And it brings down almost everyone in his life, right? So like, this is something that one of the things that I love about Psycho is, even though it's isolated down to this guy, the house itself is, if you took that house and you put it in like a horror movie from like The Haunting, right? The house would fit. Like, it's dead birds all through it. It's super gothic, like whatever. So the entire background and setting of Psycho is a call out to a kind of movie that the movie Psycho is going to demolish, right? Which is just like this unbelievable magic trick that Hitchcock did, where you're looking at something that could fit in other horror movies, and I'm going to kill those other horror movies. This horror movie attacked all the other horror movies that came before, right? So that, just for that right alone, I'm there, right? But I can't leave 1960 without, all right, so Black Sunday, right? And then one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And now this is really interesting, the juxtaposition between these two. Peeping Tom. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Peeping Tom is the movie that we're still living with this to this day. It's POV killing.
Yeah.
Right. So, but the interesting thing that I love about this is Psycho was so successful that Alfred Hitchcock tried to create a systematic data study, like studios do now, of all of the elements in Psycho to see if he could repeat it. Like, it was so big and so popular that he was literally, he took it apart after the fact to be like, why did this work so well? Like, I want to do this again. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Like, I want to make this money and have this impact and like do whatever. So it was literally like just an unstoppable juggernaut of success. Peeping Tom destroyed that director's career. Wiped out, gone. One of the most amazing directors of all time. He has 5 films in the top 100 British films of all time on their list. And his career was annihilated by this movie. It was so dark. It was so, people were like, one of the critics said, the only good thing you could do with this movie is liquefy it and pour it into a sewer.
Wow.
Right? That's pretty harsh, right? So, but you know, what I love is, you know, to me, horror is the underdog genre. So like, you know, when you have a movie that's just totally dismissed at the time, and it comes back and proves what the quality that it actually was. Kind of like it happened with John Carpenter's The Thing, right? Then my heart goes out to that movie. So you had a huge success movie and a huge failure movie, and they're both probably equally as good, and they both were probably equally impactful on the genre, maybe Psycho a little more so, but that's just an amazing year for those two things to be happening. And I like when people admit they're wrong. One of the most prominent critics in England who shit on Peeping Tom when it came out said a few months before she died, I believe, she said, when I pass away, I'm going to find the director of Peeping Tom and apologize to him directly because it's a masterpiece and I was wrong.
Jesus.
Right. So
what do you say to that? They're like, hey, I was part of the mob that killed your career. So I want to let you know that you're actually psych. You're a genius. There's not many like you. You're a national treasure.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would walk up to the person who conceived of Peeping Tom and say shit to him. I think I would just wave from across the way and be like, thumbs up.
As she's, prepping her final expenses, she's like, you're really great, guys.
Yeah, so 1960, I think my favorite year.
All right, so what I'm going to do now is I left
You're going to hit me with a buffet.
I left these next two, our buffet. So I left us in 1992. We're gonna jump all the way up one decade to 2002, which surprised the shit out of me. And it's so funny, as you were talking about Hitchcock, I was looking at the list like, yeah, Hitchcock's great. And then I looked at this list, and I think, like, I was listening. I was not listening.
That's fine.
That made it sound like you were, while you were blowing smoke out your ass, I was in La La Land. I think 2002 was the year, because I always loved horror growing up. But I think, and this is why it's hitting me right now, I think 2002 was the year that, like, I figured out that, like, I was a horror fan. Probably the same way people find their sexuality. I was like, because I think this was the year I remember buying Jason X, maybe.
Yeah, you had mentioned that before.
I think that was the year. That it was either that year or 2000. Had to have been that year, 2002, 2003. But anyways, that's really fucking close to when I remember sitting at like the lunch table and like these girls being like, "Who's Freddy Krueger?" I'm like, "It's the guy with the glove. Jason's the hockey mask." And like that's when like I started to like
straighten this out.
Yeah, I started to like learn shit about.
I'm sitting on a body of knowledge here.
That's around the time I started hitting. So like this is a great year. So a few, and I have the Juggernaut.
Yeah, who's the general?
The general. Oh, I want to save it for last.
Okay.
So
save it for last.
So
Lieutenant.
So The Ring came out, and I believe I wrote. There was the remake.
Jesus, you have something over The Ring as the general. Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh fucking yeah.
Okay.
The Ring comes out. Dog Soldiers comes out.
Oh.
Cabin Fever. Say what you want about Eli Roth. I fucking love Cabin Fever.
Oh, wow. All those are the same
Cabin Fever. And I remember there was a spread in the Springfield News Sun about Cabin Fever. And my neighbor came over, Sam, with the spread. And was like, look at this fucking movie. We looked at it. We're like, Cabin Fever. We got to check this shit out. Like, it looked horrible. In a good way.
Yeah, right.
And like, that's just something that I remember. Like, that meant something to me. Ju-on, am I saying that right? The Grudge, the Japanese version, comes out. And the movie that got me into like listening to like at the time like shitty mall metal was Resident Evil because the soundtrack I thought was just cool as fuck.
Right.
The Eye.
Yep.
The non-American Jessica
the good one.
The good one came out. And this one don't fucking shit on me. I just remember being homesick and like my mom renting this film for me, but Halloween Resurrection.
Sure.
The one with Tyra Banks and God, the rapper's name. I forget his name. What's something I see his face.
It's a fun watch.
That's the one with like they have the webcams on the thing.
Yep.
I loved that one. Blade 2 by
This
Guillermo
is all
del
the
Toro.
same year? Holy
Same year.
Shit.
Yeah. Unless Google's fucking me in the ass.
No.
This is right. Bubba Hotep.
Oh, my God.
Bubba fucking Hotep.
I'm changing my answer.
And then the top fucking pick that made me be like, this fucking year is 28 Days Later.
Oh, holy shit!
Right?
That is a year.
What a year! You're not busy.
I remember seeing all those movies, but I don't remember seeing them in a clump like that. Like,
I don't.
Maybe there was too many to watch.
I remember
all
them.
Right.
Like being in this, because like middle school is like when most of like those types of films came out for me, and I don't remember them coming out in 1 year. I remember there being like a span, because like I know like Willard is in that same year or within those years. But holy fucking shit, and I love 28 Days Later.
That's
like,
crazy.
because like the way you mentioned Psycho changed them. I think 28 Days Later
for sure
really fucking changed up like how, I mean,
well, it reinvented a whole genre, right? That's a
yeah, and it also just gave fucking life to, coincidentally, to the infected. I don't want to call them zombies because people fucking they lose their boners when you call them zombies.
Yep.
But I just think, and also like I think Trainspotting 2 even comes out. Like I just fucking love Danny Boyle and his.
It's really interesting because there was so much anxiety around like the turn of millennium and then 9/11, right? So
that's
then,
what I was gonna bring up. Like that film just encapsulated like the fucking like. Because when you watch that film, there's like a rage, because the rage virus, obviously, which is like what a lot of people were feeling. But there's like an uncertainty to it, where like you're like raged out, you're upset, but you have no fucking clue what's going on. And 28 Days Later, fucking hits
and no matter
that.
how angry you get, it's not cathartic. That's like people. There's a theory about horror that it's cathartic, that you work out your fears and then it gives you less anxiety in life and like all that stuff, right? But like 28 Days Later, you're looking at things where no matter how angry they get or how much they eat or how much they're just still angry. It's flatline. There's no it's almost like reverse what horror should do, and that's part of what makes it, like you said, so uncertain. Is a great way to put it. Like it just really uneasy.
The way I think of it, like, is if punk rock music made a horror film, it would be 28 Days
right.
28 Days Later.
Well, I mean, any year where The Ring is taking orders from another general, that's a year that's
that could be argued.
No. I love
But
if you made me pick between rewatching one of those movies right now, I'd pick The Ring. But it's I think that. I mean, it doesn't matter. Who cares? It doesn't matter who's like in front or whatever. But the point is, flip it. So then you say The Ring's the general, and 28 Days Later is. I mean, either way. I mean, it's a year just packed with fucking quality.
Yeah, and you got Bubba Hotep.
Dog soldiers, holy crap!
There, and also it's just. Wow. I mean, we could talk in length, and even Resident Evil, like the newest one, just came out to pretty shit reviews. But I still think the first one. Like I just remember like the feelings, like how that movie felt when I watched it. Like
for sure.
It
was pretty unique for what it was doing.
Exactly.
Right?
I was gonna say it was different.
I think I like Extinction better, but you hadn't seen anything quite like that before, and it was that weird dreamy quality that they were adding to the video game quality, right?
And what the reason I think Resident Evil is on the list for me is I remember there was a kid. He was almost sort of like my bully in middle school, but like the kind of bully who would like beat you up and then talk about horror films, and you're like, I don't like you, but you're telling me about these cool movies I haven't seen, so I'll let you, hurt me in class. I remember he was like, yeah, I saw Resident Evil, and there was this zombie with like his like foot being dragged like that, and I remember I couldn't get that image out of my head, and I just remember my mom taking me to Walmart. I was like, buy me this movie Resident Evil. It's rated R, but she didn't give a shit. But like I just remember she was really upset about something at the time, and I was like, I don't care, just give me this movie. A lot of weird shit happens in middle school, but
actually, I mean, think about it. There's not many franchises left, right? And the fact that Resident Evil lasted that long, I think it's better than the Underworld series, right? So like, I mean,
I would.
It's pretty powerful, right? So I think that's no. Damn! When you started to name it all, I thought I thought this would be a 2-hour podcast. You kept saying names. I was like, this is all 1 year.
My eyes lit up. I was like, holy shit! Because like most of the other years, like you put it in Google just to see what's there, and they usually put like the 80s, like you put in any. And I have 1 year from the 80s. I wasn't going to do anything from the 80s, but I picked 1 year just because I thought, what is it? Variety is the spice of life. I figured like 85, not as good as 2002, but it's pretty fucking good into some sense. But I won't say. Did I just say the year? I did. I just ruined it.
That's all you didn't ruin.
Mother.
You're the editor.
Yeah, no, but I already said it. But I'm not going to say what came out until you tell us your next pick.
All right. So my final year, and this is the reason I'm picking this year is because we actually talked about this briefly on a previous episode, is there was a magic trick that happened with this year. So I'm not going to give you the stats because it's 2016. So I think we all know that unemployment was 70% and whatever. But the Flintstones are still good. But the reason I'm picking this year is because there was some evil magic trick that made this year feel like it was 5 years long. Or it made last year feel like it was 5 years to get through the year. But it was also the fact that there were movies that I kept thinking were 2015 that were actually 2016. So there are all these movies packed into 2016 that snuck in from 2015.
It's funny you mentioned that. On Kevin Smith's podcast, Fat Man on Batman, they had the same thing.
Did they?
Because everyone thought Zootopia came out in 2015.
Yeah, what the hell did 2015 just like give?
It was the election,
right? But
it broke the year up into like practically what felt like 2 years.
Fucking weird. Oh, I got to backtrack. Sorry. One of the I forgot because I looked at my notes. One of the reasons I put 1960 in was my favorite Twilight Zone episode, "The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street," also aired in 1960.
That's a cool title.
The scariest.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh my god!
I've been trying to watch as many of them.
I can't even. It's one of the few things that's like old and black and white that I still wouldn't spoil for anyone. Like I'm not even. I wouldn't even tell you.
Okay, so I'll check it
because it's just fucking amazing. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So 2016. All right. I know. Here we go. Go ahead. Send the comments to the Facebook thing. The Witch. Right. Which is. So here's the thing. And here's the way I look at this. First of all, I wanted to get something relatively recent in, and obviously you're looking at 2014 having It Follows and Babadook, right? And those movies are good, and I think they had a really good impact. Babadook is great, but the thing is that It Follows is a call out to a shit ton of other movies, and Babadook is a call out to a kind of psychological horror that we've seen before, just not seen configured that way, right? My two favorite horror movies of 2016, The Witch and The Love Witch, are so radically different from what horror movies usually do. And The Witch really, really, it unsettled me in a way that I kind of fled the theater. And it's weird. I have some personal things behind why. Some things were going on when that movie came out that are personal to me. But the thing is, it was a really it was a powerful shot that came out of kind of nowhere. And The Love Witch it's a call out to other movies, but it's done in a way that's just almost insane. Like you shouldn't be able to even do this. But so then let's just go down the list, right? So Train to Busan on my list of best horror movies of 2016 is number 13. And it's a great movie. It's in double digits, right? So you got Under the Shadow, you got 10 Cloverfield Lane, you got
that's another thing. That was last
right. I know. You got Green Room, you got Hush, Conjuring 2, Ouija, The Invitation,
Ouija 2, the one that
Ouija 2, right, exactly. Monster, The Wailing. I mean, are you kidding me with this year? I mean,
that was a good year.
Now, if you took Green Room and the Witch and backed them into 2015, then the year's not so great. But 2016, I got to give you credit. You were 700 days long, so it's kind of cheating.
you fit quite a few good movies in there.
But I really, really loved The Invitation, and I thought it shows a way forward for. That and the Netflix series, I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, is they show a way to do a kind of horror that sort of came from House of the Devil path, but is kind of like going in some interesting directions too. And Conjuring 2 was better than The Conjuring to me. So like, it's and Ouija 2 was better than whatever. So sequels are coming alive, which is a problem that horror movies usually have. The sequel is usually worse, right?
So, good thing they're figuring out how to
exactly
how to improve.
So it's really gratifying to me as a horror fan And then 10 Cloverfield Lane, I don't think that gets nearly enough credit.
How about we swap that with Halloween 3 for
right,
exactly. For all those lists.
And then Green Room, like, this is a really, really interesting director who's trying to take things in a direction that are sort of unique. And that was, I have some problems with that movie, like whatever, but the fact that exists as that, think about it. So 10 Cloverfield Lane is anchored by John Goodman and Green Room's anchored by Patrick Stewart. You're starting to get this model where you have one really, really talented star who kind of like is the centerpiece, and then you have the cast around that, right? Which is a model that I really like for horror. So
lets them kind of flex.
Yeah, well, it was what they used to do with Karloff or Lugosi or whatever. You didn't know who the other people in those movies were.
Didn't care.
Right, exactly. So 2016, props to you.
So since I've spoiled my last year,
yes,
1985, I didn't want to pick an 80s film, and here's my reason why.
Yeah, I'm surprised you.
Here's my reason why. It's because you can pick pretty much any random year in the 80s, and there's at least one juggernaut film.
Mm-hmm.
So like 81 for me would probably be Evil Dead.
Sure.
84, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, what was it, 83, like I had Creepshow. But, or whatever fucking year it was. But I went with 1985 because I was like, I figured if it kind of has everything you want in the 80s in 1 year combined. So I was like, well, I'm not going to pick, if I had to pick 1 year, it would have to be a year that gives you everything that decade had to offer.
Oh, nice. So
that was my reasoning. I hated picking the 80s. I wanted to pick something obscure, but then I was like, that's why I have 3 honorable mentions, 2 of them in the 90s. Because I think the 90s, for as much shit as there was, and there's a lot of it, there's still a few. But okay, so I went with 1985, and I'm debating on who the juggernaut is. I'm gonna have to flip a coin on it. But just to read a list, you have, and I'll name them, but you get 2 Stephen King films coming out.
Of course, right?
That he wrote. You get Freddy Krueger that year.
Mm-hmm.
You get Jason that year.
Mm-hmm.
You get a few vampires, a few zombies, and a creature. So the list obviously is The Reanimator, fucking mad scientist / zombie, film. And I think I'm gonna go with that one. I'm gonna skip that one for the juggernaut. Over Day of the Dead, which most people, it's usually Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living, but then some people put Day at the top.
Yep.
Day of the Dead came out the year. Return of the Living Dead, so you get a double dosage of zombies.
That's right.
I don't consider Reanimator zombies, even though they are back from the dead. Sure. I still consider that mad scientist.
Yep.
Return of the Living Dead, which is just fucking. It's just sort of like it's almost. Oh, to me, it's almost the fuck you to the zombie film. It's like it's not as easy as shoot him in the head.
I think Return of the Living Dead is the single best forgotten surprise movie. I saw it so long ago, and you see a movie and then you're like, I liked it, and then you go rewatch it. Like I rewatched it, I had such a blast.
Movie, yeah, it's fun while making you feel like you're completely fucked.
Totally.
You never you can watch the fucking, I don't know, any other film where some unstoppable force is chasing you and you're like, it's whatever. But Return of the Living Dead, you're just like, well shit, like there's nothing I can do.
Yep.
So Return of the Living Dead comes out the year. The Stuff comes out, which Good Bad Flicks did his thing on, which I watched and I was like, shit, like this is a great fucking movie. And I actually kind of consider that a creature feature. Is it weird to consider Stuff's a creature? And then the Stephen King films, Silver Bullet.
Yep.
Werewolf Design, pending. But great fucking movie. Aside from that, you get to see a werewolf get it in the eye with the firework. And then also that year from Stephen King, which I actually watched last year the first time with my dad before we came home for like our little October visit back to Ohio, was Cat's Eye. Which I actually really liked how they always,
I love Cat's Eye.
They joke that the cats take your breath and it's the fucking little troll or goblin or whatever. And then Friday the 13th, New Beginning comes out, so you get your Jason, and then Nightmare 2 comes out that year, which I need to. We talked about this last night, and I need to get a definitive answer. And I know Robert Englund has his is it England or England?
England.
Fuck, doesn't matter. He's great. Why is it? And it has bugged the shit out of me. I just have to say it and put it out in the world. Maybe I'll even fucking make a post about it for fucking Facebook against your will. I'm just gonna. Why does Freddy from Nightmare 1 to Nightmare 2? He goes from like freaky looking to fucking nightmare fuel.
Yep.
In Nightmare 2, why did they change his design to look so terrifying?
Yeah, it's a big switch. I mean,
You thought so too, right?
Yeah, it's subtle, but it's like, I mean, the difference is, and you know, when you showed me the pictures side by side, I was like, holy shit, like that's.
Yeah, at first I googled like Freddy Krueger side by side. I was like, I'm a fucking editor. I can just put it side myself. I just didn't want to do the work.
Right.
And then I did, and I was like, wow, he looks like crazy fucking scary and too.
Yep.
So if anyone can answer that, like if you know the dude who did the makeup, or if it was like a director's choice or something, I would love to know why he fucking looks the way he does. But yeah, I mean, like it's a buffet of different horror genres that year. You get your mad scientist, you get your vampire from and I didn't name my general of the year.
Yeah.
Fright Night.
Oh,
I picked that over everything.
Yeah.
Wow. Crazy, right? Like the fact that you have, the only two debating it was Reanimator and Day of the Dead.
Yep.
But I went with Fright Night because I think it's probably one of the most enjoyable films aside from Return, because that's crazy. But I just love, there's something about like, especially with like how popular things like Stranger Things are, whenever like kids have to fight this unstoppable fucking monster, like it instantly just like, it's so easy to put yourself into their shoes, because we were all those kids figuring out how would we defeat Dracula, how we would defeat the Wolfman.
Totally.
Which is why I love Monster Squad so much. But I think Fright Night did it in a fun and poppy way, and plus they get the guy from the television show.
Totally.
Like it's just to me it's just one of the most enjoyable films. I can't get Alex to watch it. I don't know why. I don't know why. She needs to. But 1985, and I circled 2002. I didn't want to pick a best year, but that year, dude, you just can't fucking get better than that.
But 85 on my criteria, where you go outside of movies, like 85 was just in the heyday of horror fiction in general, right? Like I just looked up horror novels, 85 or horror books, and you've got Vampire Lestat, Anne Rice, Clive Barker, Damnation Game, Stephen King, Skeleton Crew. Right.
Skeleton Crew was that year?
T.E.D. Klein, who I really like, Dark Gods, Ramsey Campbell, Cole Print, Song of Kali, Dan Simmons. This era was the era when you could walk into a bookstore and horror novels were like a black mold that spread across the shelves where they were just selling out of it. Like, I mean, it was just like the heyday of that like where it wasn't, I won't say went mainstream, because they kept their edge, right? They just sort of invaded. Kind of like how Nirvana exterminated hair metal.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So 1985,
love it. Good choice.
good year, and apparently for books too. Okay, so we have.
You have honorable mentions.
I have honorable mentions.
I only have one honorable mention, and it's not even. I'm not.
So do
just 1968, Night of the Living Dead. I feel like it's just so important that just by itself being that year, it makes it a good year. I have no other honorable mentions.
So I'll do my honorable mentions, then we'll go to worst.
Yes.
Funny, you said 68. I went with 69.
Why?
Because that's the year, and I was trying to think of what could horror be, have to the masses that would entertain people, and that's the year that the Haunted Mansion opens up.
Oh, right.
At Disneyland.
Right. Of course.
And I was like, what better way to get people to see ghouls and ghosts and all this other spooky shit than a great ride at Disneyland?
Agreed.
So, and then I had 2 years from the 90s. For some reason, I really wanted to go with 90s films just because I know I've seen a lot of them. But I picked 92 over 91. 91 had People Under the Stairs, Cape Fear, and I picked it because it also had the experimental dark horror fantasy is what it's under, Begotten.
Right.
Which creeped me the fuck out when I first saw it, which
for sure
did its job. But also that was the year Silence of the Lambs came out, and I think, it won did it sweep the Oscars or did it? I don't know. It won some.
It won almost everything.
Yeah.
It was.
And I think for horror, even though they tried to call it like a suspense thrill, it's fucking horror. We've talked about this. It's horror, guys.
It's horror.
You're not. Get over it. It's horror.
Yep.
But I couldn't get over that year that had Army of Darkness, Dead Alive, and Dracula.
No,
and then the last year that I was gonna pick, I was gonna go with '96. There's only 2 films from that year that I liked. The rest, first one was Scream.
Right. Oh, right.
Because it brought Ghostface to the masses and Wes Craven just doing his thing, being super fucking meta about horror films,
resurrecting the whole slasher genre.
Yeah,
right.
Doing his thing. And then Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn. I just think it's. I fucking love that film.
I know.
God damn it! Any film that can make it like, oh, this is a heist film. They robbed a bank. Oh, fuck you! It's a vampire film. Balls to the fucking
that was
wall.
Such a great bait and switch.
I know, I love it. So, okay, so those are the honor mentions.
Yeah, and there's great years. I mean, when we asked the question on the Facebook page, a lot of the fans kind of isolated. There's that good block from 78 to like 82, right?
Yeah.
And 73 is obviously Exorcist. So there's like a lot of pivotal years. But I wanted to get passionate about it by where could you find the biggest clump? And honestly, you won because 2002. Holy crap!
Yeah, and that came at a good time for a young boy to get into some films. In fact, I had a Bubba Hotep action figure. It wasn't an action figure, but it was a figurine we got in San Francisco. I think I still have it.
I'm sure you do.
Okay, worst
Yes.
films. I have
Worst
2 years
year.
that
What's the worst year for horror? The worst.
You go first. You go first. You can
Well,
go
I have 2. So I have one I'm not that passionate about, and one that I've become really passionate about for a very specific reason. So, for a lot of reasons but the weird part is, 1947 is what they call the year the floor dropped from beneath horror movies. I mean, you went from great horror movies to 1947 here. When you look at it, it's The Red House, Things Happen at Night, The Spider-Woman Strikes Back, and Uncle Silas.
Yep. Nope. Pass.
I mean, this is
Pass on that grass.
So that's pretty bad. But there were a lot of internal reasons to do with censorship and studio decisions. Is why that kind of happens. So it's a bad year, but it's not the creators. It's the process that caused that. The interesting thing is, though, remember we were talking about coming out of the millennium in 2001. I mean, 1947 is 2 years after World War II. You would think the horror genre would be grappling with sort of the darkness of whatever, but it went the opposite direction at that time. The worst year. Now watch this. This is amazing to me. So the worst year is, I'm gonna go backwards. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, they have a list of the best horror movie by year. So they just pick the top, like 73 Exorcist, right? Okay. So I'm going to go backwards. You tell me which one of these things is not like the other.
Okay. I'm ready.
79 Alien. 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Not Halloween?
77 Suspiria. 76 Carrie. 75 Jaws. 74 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Absolutely.
73 Don't Look Now. 72 Last House on the Left.
Gotcha.
71 Abominable Dr. Phibes. 70 Valerie and Her Week of Wonders.
No.
What?
Go back the other way.
Turn around. What the hell? 1970. Now, caveat. I've actually seen that movie and I like it a lot. It's not a horror movie, but when you look at the horror movies from 1970, the list of them is. I mean, I'm literally looking at. Now, Hammer is doing a couple interesting things, and
I saw
right?
that. That's
right.
I wanted to have some Hammer in there, but
I know I did too. But I mean, this is the list of The Wizard of Gore, Sex and the Vampire,
no,
Mumsy, Nanny, Sonny and Girly, Mark of the Devil, Desaad 70, Count Yorga. I mean, Bigfoot. Come on, 1970.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the reason I'm picking this is there wasn't any particular process reason why that was happening that way. I think they were in between. they hadn't reacted to what Night of the Living Dead and some of those others were unleashing on the world yet.
Yeah.
And there's still some crap in the pipeline they had to get through their system before they launched into, I mean, think about the movies I just said heading backwards to 1970. 1970s are a great fucking time for horror.
Yeah.
But 1970 is like...
You got off on the wrong foot.
Yeah. What you got?
Okay, so I have four total. One we both agree on. But the two I did it for the list. Like, I picked 1936 for no reason in particular, other than I wrote my notes. Says nothing comes out. Nothing comes out. It's the year after The Bride of Frankenstein, The Raven, Mad Love, and Werewolf in London. So it's just a bad follow up, which reflects my other pick. But 1964 had some Vincent Price films. My notes: big shit all year round, and Twilight Zone ends.
Oh, boo!
So
good reason for that to be a bad year.
Yeah. It's like, oh wow, this great fucking series just stops. So funny enough that 63, I say I made 63 a bad year because 35 or 36 was bad because 35 rocked.
Yep.
And it's funny because in my notes, 2002 won the best year, but my worst was 2003.
Yep.
So imagine yourself in 2002, like, oh yeah, The Ring, boom, saw it, Cabin Fever, saw it, Boba Hotep, loved it.
Yep.
Yeah, 28 days later, what could go wrong? Bring it on, 2003.
What could go wrong?
Okay, you get Uwe Boll's House of the Dead. Fuck me. No. Okay.
That's
okay.
terrible.
Maybe that's okay.
Maybe there's better coming.
Maybe there's okay. Oh wow, Beyond Reanimator. Where's the bucket? I'm ready to throw up. Okay, maybe that's not bad. I think Halle Berry just won an Oscar. Is she in a horror film? Oh, Gothica. I remember watching that and be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I remember trying to watch that and bailing.
I remember that was like those are the films from the 2000s that I remember it being like, why? Why? Okay, that's not bad. I remember the 80s were kind of cool. Oh, the Leprechaun's back. Oh, Leprechaun 2, Back to the Hood. No, stop it. Final Destination was great. Final Destination 2, murder me. And I even though I love this movie and I have a reason. Wrong Turn came out that year.
Yes.
Which I love. But I only put it on the list for worst because Wrong Turn went wrong real fast with their shitty sequels.
Yeah,
if it had just been a one and done,
Yep.
concrete yourself into this fucking great movie.
Yep.
I loved it, and I love the two main characters, whatever the lady's I forget her name, but then the dude was in Dexter, and he was fucking awesome. But I only put that on there because it's funny. But the captain of the shit show has to go to Freddy versus Jason that year. Just imagine fucking like being in 1985. You get Nightmare, you get Jason. You're like, man, it'd be cool to see those two. It'd be cool to see those two go at it, and then 20 something, the 19 some, however many years later comes out, and then you get Freddy versus Jason. I could film myself taking a shit, and it would be better than all of 2003 combined. Actually, no. You know what? No. Freddy versus Jason isn't the captain of the shit show. House of the Dead is.
House of the Dead is definitely.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of good shit in Freddy versus Jason. Overall, it sucks to me.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's flawed. The non-Freddy Jason scenes with the teenagers and sort of the Freddy stalking thing are the best part of the movie, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you hear about something for so long and that's what you get, and it's surrounded by what you just named. 2003 is like the year you turn your horror fan card back. And
I just remember the way they marketed that film. Like, could you have been less fucking cool? Like, you couldn't have tried to be less cool than what they did. I remember being in high school and being like, well, this sucks.
Yep.
But yeah, House of the Dead. I had the video game House of the Dead 3 for Xbox, and it had the gun controller. So me and my friend, we would just shoot the television all day, and it had like a special thing, like, hey, the film's coming out, and I was like, hey, it looks cool. They fucking like ripped like the Matrix scenes with like cameras rolling around, and it had that lame fucking shit director.
Terrible.
And I don't even get negative, but man, do I hate that fucking movie.
Terrible, absolutely terrible. And Beyond Reanimator?
2000, yeah, no. So 2003, just fucking terrible. Like
Yeah, that's a whiplash from 2002 to 2003.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's that. Like 2002 is driving 100 miles an hour, drifting on every turn, first fucking place, and then it realizes it left the stove on, just slams the brakes, and you go flying out of the windshield into 2003. You're just rolling in glass. Like, stop, get me out of here. Give me the fucking 2016.
I want you to animate a video of that for me to put posting this episode.
that's 2003 to me.
That's pretty great.
And then the last worst film. You have one more?
I have no.
The last one we both.
I'm not gonna go after that.
Well, we both. It's not gonna end on such a note, but we both agreed that 1995.
Yes.
Also sucked asshole because you put in, most of the years you put in the first few films, and most of this comes from Google because that's how we do our fucking research. Yep. It has the big juggernaut films that year, and this is going to be surprising come for me. As much as I would bend over backwards to talk about how much I love Tales from the Crypt, the films, the films, I don't know how to articulate how much I don't like them.
Right.
Like they're just bad. Right. Tales from the Crypt, stay 50 minutes, 45 minutes, stay short. Don't fucking do a feature, please. But Demon Knight.
Yeah.
It had the guy who played the Phantom, who I liked. But Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. Halloween, Curse of Michael Myers, the one with Paul Rudd, that the Weinstein's kind of fucked over.
Go ahead, hit him with the next. Go ahead, I know what you're gonna say. The next.
It's a 3-word title. I'm gonna surprise you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Species came out that year.
Yeah, actually, that might be the best horror movie that year. Pure horror movie, if you're not counting Seven.
And that's not.
No, it's not very good.
Seven. Okay, real quick. Seven. They marketed it as a horror film. In the trailers, because I remember having the Mortal Kombat VHS, and it was like 7 deadly sins. But if that's the best film you got, great. But 95
I usually
sucked.
That's the thing though is I hate that isn't a horror movie, not a horror movie argument. But Seven, it's weird. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I feel like Silence of the Lambs is way more of a horror movie than Seven, but I can't really articulate it. I don't know why. Honestly. I feel like Zodiac's more of a horror movie than Seven. I just can't. Maybe it's just more, the structure's more procedural. I don't know.
Well, if you're putting M on there.
Yeah, no, true. But that's the thing is like M, I remember getting jumpy when Peter Lorre was hiding behind the crates and being hunted. I remember getting jumpy like maybe someone was behind me or maybe whatever. Seven never had that impact on me. Like it makes you jump. Like when the starving guy moves, like you jump.
Maybe it's because it focuses highly on the detectives. But like with M, you're with the killer.
But as soon as Seven's over, you're not afraid to go outside and get a box on your step or whatever. You're not like, it's not like, it doesn't stay with you.
Yeah, and I would agree that Zodiac's more horror.
But it's a fruitless argument. But if you gotta reach to Seven to be your best horror movie of the year, and you got nothing else in there except for Species, then you're
fucked. But the one film that was the shit captain of 95 is Vampire in Brooklyn.
Oh no.
It's
oh no.
It's bad.
Yeah, well.
It's a bad fucking film. It's the kind of film that I could see Paramount, because I don't think Paramount's it's as big as it was in the 90s. To me, like in the 90s, Paramount, like with the Addams Family shit, like it was like, this is a Paramount film. Like you're going to get this great picture and it's going to be fantastic. That was Vampire in Brooklyn's the film where all those fucking, white dudes in their 50s and 60s with their flooded jeans and high top white socks pitch this movie, and they try to get that funny guy Eddie Murphy to be, and he does the Eddie Murphy thing where he plays like 40 different characters, and they try to like hack up the whole horror thing in a way that's not that fucking funny. It's just shit. But the one thing that I would say that I'm not gonna put on the sucking in 1995, because I actually really enjoyed it, and I think the feeling of the film, the vibe of it, and the atmosphere is pretty spot on. But Tales from the Hood, I fucking love that.
That's a pretty good movie.
And I just even the intro where they're just in the funeral home, fucking creepy, dude. Like I love that. So like if there was any sort of like redemption, it would be Tales from the Hood for that year. So
yeah, and you don't. I mean, I think you. I like the choice of. I really like the 2003. The video I'm still seeing in my head of hitting the brakes because just over. like that. You don't have to. That transition doesn't have to be that fucking bad, right? Like while you're doing that, I'm thinking to myself, like 2014, great year for horror. 2016, I picked as one of the best years for horror. So like, what did 2015 do, right? And then hidden in 2015, you got like Krampus, right?
Babadook.
No, well, that's 14, right? I mean, it shows as 14.
I forget.
But you got Final Girls, Crimson Peak, Krampus.
Yeah, it's 3 years old
it's not as good a year, but it's not a shit show.
Like there's good stuff for people to talk about and, geek out over.
Right, but you're not going to see Valerie in her Week of Wonders.
Yeah, or House of the fucking Dead. I don't even know if that got a wide release. I just remember seeing it or renting it somehow and being like, fuck this shit. This sucks. So, as long as we never have I hope with how easy it is. I mean, it's not easy to make a movie, but with the technology being better, I hope that if we ever have another 2003, like someone on YouTube can just make a short, like something just to like band-aids for any future bad years that we're gonna have.
Now it makes me wonder if we're in a wave pattern here, where it's like
it's going to go back.
2014 great, 2015 okay, 2016 great, 2017 okay. Because when you look down the calendar for this year, I don't know. I get a feeling it's going to be good, but not amazing, right?
Well, there's it. I mean, Resident Evil came out and fucking bit the dog.
But see, that's one of the things. What I like is I love when there's a mix, like Invitation, Witch, Green Room. They took me by surprise. These are movies that are doing. They're horror movies that do things that horror movies don't really do, and they're not franchise material. They're not remakes. They're not reboots. Like whatever. So, when you look down the calendar, like I mean, Cure for Wellness is interesting. The marketing's interesting, but even if it is amazing, it's a regrab of something else. Kong Skull Island is,
I think that could be good.
I'm really excited about it, but it's
because my boy Michael Daughtry, I hope he does a better job with Godzilla 2 than the first one. I fell fucking asleep on Godzilla. But that gave me hope. I hope Godzilla makes an appearance in Trick or Treat too.
I think that Godzilla is a con. That movie is a con. That movie doesn't exist. I've tried to watch it 3 times, and it's basically just a black screen. I don't think that's really a movie. I think it's just dark.
No. I think you're right.
Something moves in there, but I don't know what it is.
I remember them marketing the fuck out of Bryan Cranston.
Yes.
And he dies 30 minutes in, or not even that.
Right. I wish someone would hand me like $50 million to give them something that looks like the TV that's off behind you.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. And I also wonder if.
But we'll see. We'll see how.
I don't know. I wonder if politics plays a role in this too, because. But I don't. But then again, I don't know, because 2002 was great.
Yep.
That was during the Bush years, but then 2003 sucked. I don't know. I just wonder what kind of films we're gonna get under fucking Trump. Like I don't know. Like, does that affect it? I don't know. We're gonna find out.
We will find out.
Alrighty. So there you have it. There's our lists. Quite more good years than bad, which is a good thing. Mm-hmm. We want more good years. We hope we have more of those. I swear to God, if I live through another 2003, I don't know what I'll do.
Weebles retired, right?
I hope. I don't think so.
Oh, no.
He was trying to do the World of Warcraft film, and then Lionsgate was like,
Good job,
Lionsgate or Legendary. Either way, they were like, please jump off a bridge. That would be a better movie.
What year was the Poltergeist remake? That might be the worst.
That was not that long ago.
Yep.
I like the trailer, but that sucked. But anyways, some good picks. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, tell us any years if you haven't commented on the Facebook page already. And please consider rating us and reviewing us on iTunes. We really appreciate it.
The more, the merrier. We're going to grow. We're going to grow this mother sucker so effing big. It's going to be the biggest community. It's going to look like we'll have more people than the committee meeting at the end of M. It'll look like that.
Wow, is that obscure?
Yeah. I was trying to think of what had a big crowd that like was kind of positive. I was like, well, more fans than zombies in fucking World War Z. But I'm like, no, there's zombies. That's not good. I don't want to call it fans zombies.
We want to grow a community that's larger than all the people who were disappointed by Vampire in Brooklyn. It's a big community.
It's about 3 million. 3 billion. Billion. It's going to be huge.
Huge.
It's going to be huge. Alrighty. Until next time. Yeah. See you then.